So basically, I think that the problem is that Pioli doesn't have the possibility to work properly.
Why Rade Krunic is always playing?
And that's why again it's important Krunic, because if the defender leaves his position, the midfielder has to cover.
Bene. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you Mattia here with us today. Hello, Mattia. How are you?
Hello, I'm very good. Thank you for this invitation. I'm very happy for discussing about Milan with you.
Of course. Mattia, it's first of all, he has his own account on Instagram, Tatticamente Milan, but also he's a reporter for Daily Milan, which is an Italian news agency for very specific for Milan, which is I suggest you to follow. And today with Mattia, we're going to talk a little bit about tactics. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Milan nowadays. What's your own opinion? Is he tactically doing a lot of mistakes? Do you think it's just because of the injuries? Do you think it's because of a little bit of a psychological approach of the player, of the team?
So I think that this big change between the first part of the season and second part of the season is due to injuries, of course, and from the fact that he has a lot of new players and he has to create this harmony between the new players and the old players with new tactical ideas, because we play in a different way, a completely different way compared to the previous year. So basically, I think that the problem is that Pioli doesn't have the possibility to work properly.
Why Rade Krunic is always playing, and for example, our beloved Yashin Adli is always on the bench. So why Krunic yes and Adli no?
Yeah, I think that's the most common critic about Pioli. And here in this screen, we can easily understand why. So Adli basically has always played as offensive midfielder or as trequartista. And he doesn't really know how to play as CDM. So he is new in this role. While Krunic is more used to do his role, and why is important to know how to do this role, because Krunic has a very important role in the defensive phase. So here we can notice that Ciao is bringing the ball because he has space, so he can bring the ball. Krunic, what's the role of Krunic? He has to cover, because if we lose the ball here, he can do the diagonal and close to the space, or be close to the Lecce strike. Pioli this year plays splitting the team into two blocks. So we have the more defensive block composed by 5 players, which are the 4 defenders plus Krunic. At the same time, we have the offensive block, which is composed by the mezzali, so Reinders and Pobega in this case, and all the strikers. I mean, the offensive wing and Giroud. So why? Because in this way you guarantee that 5 people can do the defensive phase if we lose the ball. So Krunic has this role. If we lose the ball, he has to cover. And Adli is not used to this role. Pioli, I think that Pioli loves tactically Reinders and technically Reinders. So his idea is to leave him freedom. So if you want to leave to Reinders this level of freedom, you have to guarantee other players that covers. Arrow shows that Giroud helps Ciao in order to give him an option. What's the consequence of this movement of Giroud? That he leaves space behind him that is attacked by Ciucu. So there's another alternative. So Ciao can just pass the ball to Calabria or Krunic, or have a verticalization on Giroud that can also pass the ball to Reinders and maybe verticalize directly to Chukwueze, or Ciao directly can verticalize to Chukwueze. In Lecce, we have seen a lot of time Ciao bringing the ball because he had a lot of space, and of course he used this space to attack him and go forward. And that's why again it's important Krunic, because if the defender leaves his position, the midfielder has to cover. The defensive midfielder has to cover.
So this is one of the interesting things tactically about Pioli's game.
The left back as well as the right back has a very important role because he attacks the spaces in the middle of the field. So usually the left back in a normal organization of the team has to be, let's say, down here, you know?
Yeah, that down on the monitor, yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't happen for Milan. Why? Because if the left back is here, it means that the left mezzala has to be here in order that the tour of the ball can continue. It doesn't happen because, again, Pobega, as well as in Napoli, where Musa attacked this, let's say, space behind the midfield line, is attacking the space. So there is a lot of space here, which is attacked by Theo. So Theo gives an option to Chukwueze, and this is very important. Why? Because Theo here, we know how fast he is, we know what he can do when the spaces are open. So he can go himself to score, to shot, or he can go to this part of the field where there is Leao for the 1v1. So another big critic against Pioli was that he doesn't prepare the team, the tactic part of the team, considering the opponents. Well, he did it against PSG, and the results are very clear. So he decided to basically block the two midfielders as defensive midfielders. So if usually we have a situation with the back midfielder here, the mezzala here, the mezzala here, it didn't happen against PSG, and we have the opposite. So we have the two back midfielder and a more offensive midfielder, which is Loftus Cheek, that does a double role here. Why? Because he has a defensive role against Ugarte, which was, let's say, the regista of the PSG. So this role of let's say, his shadow is important because you block the construction of the offensive organization of the PSG. At the same time, the second very important role of Loftus Cheek, he's very fast, he's very physics and solid. So he's very important in the transition between the defensive action and the offensive action. So what happened here? He recovered the ball, get the ball from Ugarte. We had this transition, and Ugarte has to, I think, spend the yellow card, or we are in conclusion with Giroud. But I mean, in this case, you have a lot of space to attack behind the back of Ugarte, and Loftus Cheek took that space.
Mattia, anything to say? You want to say anything? Thank you so much, man.
Of course, I would like to thank you a lot for this nice talk, and it was very funny, and I loved it, and it was very, very nice. I hope we can do it more in the future,
Absolutely.
maybe. And
absolutely.
I love that you appreciate it.
Of course, Mattia. Grazie mille allora.
Grazie a te.
Ciao, grazie.
Ciao.